Hey, welcome to a channel dedicated to finding genuine liberation from suffering. Through truly knowing suffering, we can learn to embrace and ultimately release it by observing how our thoughts, emotions, feelings, and perceptions operate. Today, Venerable Ajahn Theera will guide us in discovering this truth together. Ajahn Theera is a Buddhist monk from Thailand who has found the path beyond suffering and wishes to share this understanding with all of you. Since the original teachings are in Thai and he prefers to remain anonymous, we're sharing his teachings in podcast format. Let's listen together.
Today I will talk about guiding our minds to remain awakened within, so that our consciousness may perceive truth and recognize the nature of mental formations known as citta sankhara. When the mind sees these mental formations, it understands them as a truth of suffering, a state of impermanence where all conditioned phenomena are in constant flux and cannot maintain their original form. Their ripples flow according to causes and conditions, like waves across the universal sea of consciousness. These conditions are merely tools for the mind, which the mind uses to fabricate and learn various things. When the mind sees this truth, realizing that these things are not the mind but merely phenomena, it will no longer be deluded nor cling to these phenomena. At that point, the Buddha nature will arise in our minds. The Buddha's presence in the Dharma will manifest. Ignorance, avidya, will collapse from the mind. This is the essence of the Buddha's teachings, the goal that the Buddha has pointed us toward to realize this truth. The Buddha taught us to see the truth of why our minds have been wandering in the cycle of birth and death, samsara, for so long, and why we have come to dwell in this body. We in reality are the mind. But if we say that the mind resides in this body, we still perceive the mind as something separate, like a third person, and we think there is something else besides it. The term "we" here refers to the mind, the empty, clear, and pure element. We must understand this clearly first, grasp this point, and not get lost in any other details. The Buddha said that the five aggregates, khandhas, are anatta, which means that this body is not truly ours. Let me put it simply, this body is not ours. The word anatta means not self, but if we say not self, humans might not be able to accept it because people cannot understand this concept easily. Let's simplify it by saying that this body is not us. What does us mean? Us means the mind, the empty, clear, and pure element. This is our true nature, but do not cling to it as the self, because the language we are using here is abstract. The body is the material form. The thoughts, the words being spoken are abstract. The mental images, the emotions that arise, and the sensations we are aware of are abstract. These are called the five aggregates. The abstract phenomena that are fluctuating are not us. If we understand this, then the matter is resolved, because what is being spoken is not us speaking. The sound that is being made is merely a ripple that exists outside the mind. The sound we hear is just a ripple of the nature that is conditioned and fabricated. Here's a simile. The sound being spoken is like a soap bubble that surrounds the mind. The nature of our mind is emptiness, clear and pure, like the emptiness within the soap bubble. What is being spoken is just a ripple of that soap bubble. If you understand this analogy, you will understand the true nature of the mind. The ripples are not the mind. Speaking with human language is not us. The mental images we think of are not us. The emotions that arise continuously in our experience are not us. Whether they are feelings of happiness and satisfaction, or dissatisfaction and suffering, or neutrality or concentration, all of these are not us. They are merely ripples on the surface of the mind, like a soap bubble rippling. The Buddha pointed to the fundamental nature of our mind as an empty, pure consciousness that encompasses the infinite universe. This primordial essence existed before all conditioned phenomena. From this original source arose the mental elements, thoughts, emotions, and awareness, what we call Chitta Sankara. Like space itself, our true nature is boundless and pure, yet gives birth to all mental formations and experiences that flow through consciousness. The mind created the element of name to be used in fabricating and learning. And this process of fabrication and learning is a ripple of fabrication. To hold on to form means to hold on to the body, and we understand this by recognizing that we have a body even though the body itself doesn't speak. When the mind uses these tools, form refers to the coarse form, the body we use, which is a coarse tool, and the mind also uses the element of name, which is the subtle form, sound, mental images, emotions, and sensations. These are the subtle elements, the subtle body. When the mind relies on both the coarse body and the subtle body, it has been relying on these tools all along because it wants to learn. By using these tools to learn, the mind learns only external things. Now everyone has been learning about external things so much that they have forgotten their own true nature. They have forgotten their duty, which is to learn within, not just to learn from the outside. It's like a city with a glass wall surrounding it, protecting it from outside disturbances. This city is peaceful, complete within itself, not relying on anything from the outside. It has a glass dome that protects it from all kinds of dangers. The city wants to learn about things from the outside in order to understand what the outside world is like and what exists there. So it sends out a general and an army to patrol the outside, divided into many departments, many groups. The army goes out to learn and bring back information from the outside to explain to the king in the city about what exists out there. However, when the army is sent out to learn about things outside, they all mysteriously disappear. No matter who is sent, they vanish, and no one comes back to explain anything to the ruler. All those who were sent out create new families, get lost in new cities, live in new places, and struggle to find whatever they can from the new cities. They struggle and seek. This is like the mind of all of us. Our mind is an empty, clear, and pure element. It cannot know anything unless it creates tools. Like if we did not rely on the human body, we would not be able to learn anything. The fact that we have this body is for us to use it to learn. We learn everything, whether it's in the field of science, astronomy, or even in medical sciences. The nature of plants and everything, sea, earth, art, and galaxies are all part of learning about the outer world. We learn about the form element of everything by relying on the mental elements to understand. Whatever we learn, we remember, right? This memory is a mental element. It is a conditioning process. We understand that the mind creates the mental elements and then relies on the form elements. The mind creates all these things, but it doesn't want to learn about the outside world because it doesn't yet know. There are no wise teachers to teach it to learn from within. When the mind creates the mental elements, creating thoughts, emotions, and the sensation of knowing things come into contact. When contact happens, it causes a ripple, conditioning us to learn about various things. When a sound comes into contact, we learn what that sound is, where it comes from. We learn about the images we see. Whatever images appear, we learn about them. Any stories we see, we learn them all. When a sound touches, we learn everything about what the sound brings. We learn everything, even the scent that comes into contact. We learn where that scent comes from. We even learn about the food we put into our mouths. We taste it, and we learn where all the flavors come from. We learn through touch when we feel hot air, cold air, happiness and suffering that come from touch. We learn about different things, whether it's hot air, cold air, or anything in the surrounding environment that comes into contact with the body. We learn all the effects it brings. We learn everything that comes into contact by relying on this thought, this sound, and we remember. Even what I'm saying now, I am using this sound to speak in order to communicate with humans. Humans understand that we are human. We rely on this sound to converse, to learn about things, to give value to things, to remember and record them. Then we use this sound, which is called the mind, constantly relying on mental formations. We rely on Sita Sankara, mental formations, to ripple and fabricate sound for communication, to ripple and fabricate as memory, to ripple and fabricate as recognition, to ripple and fabricate as mental images, to ripple and fabricate as emotions, and to ripple and fabricate as sensations of awareness. All of these are mental formations, purely mental elements. We learn about the form element. When all the form elements come into contact with the mental elements, the water element ripples in response, recognizes, and fabricates value in this way from waking until sleeping. We rely on thoughts to fabricate all the time, relying on the sound that constantly speaks in our minds, speaking aloud in our minds at all times. Whatever we do, there will always be this sound speaking as if it were a representative of the mind. The mind, however, is like a pure element that is mute. It cannot speak, but it can understand. For it to understand, it must rely on tools. It relies on sound to fabricate and articulate speech, on images, on memory and recognition, on emotions, and on sensations of awareness. The mind must rely on the mental elements as tools to process and comprehend the things it learns. The mind cannot speak, it only performs the function of understanding. But what does it truly want? The mind does not desire the things it learns, nor does it want to learn about external things or any sensations at all. What the mind truly wants is for this Citta Sankara, these rippling and fabricated conditions, to ripple and fabricate to learn its own nature. This is the wisdom knowledge that all our minds seek. Our consciousness cycles through different bodily vessels, creating these subtle bodies. We have been through all these forms: the hungry ghosts, hell beings, asuras, devas, brahmas, and even demons. In these subtle realms, we have wandered like ants through countless existences. Then we come to reside in the coarse body, becoming animals or humans. We learn to live life, to seek sustenance. Being born as an animal, we can only learn how to find food and survive, nothing more. We use the bodies of animals to learn about survival and sustenance, but gain nothing from relying on these vessels. In each lifetime, we are born to seek food and then are eaten, or else we perish from old age. Humans are a special type of being. They are also born to seek food and perish with time, but humans have a unique advantage. They have the capacity to learn from all aspects, to receive information from every field of learning, to record and process, to understand life itself. Some begin to turn inward to learn about their own lives, but still do not find the ultimate purpose of this life. They continue to learn endlessly. A great man, the Buddha, contemplated and saw the true reason we are born. Why are we born? Only to grow old, to become sick, to part with loved ones, to suffer, and to eventually perish. The Buddha sought a way to be free from all this suffering. This freedom is non-birth. How can one escape this cycle of birth, this wheel of existence? The Buddha reversed the current, coming to understand the mind, and realizing that in this cycle of suffering, whenever one is born, suffering follows, and this suffering repeats countless times. The Buddha discovered that it is because the mind is entangled with avidya, ignorance. After his enlightenment, the Buddha saw that the mind requires the body of knowledge, the wisdom it seeks. The mind longs for learns about itself, having created this tool, the Nama Dhatu, which relies on the Rupa Dhatu. The human body is the finest vessel, allowing it to observe various conditions: happiness, suffering, goodness, and badness. It sees that these two conditions represent extremes. One extreme is pleasure leading to brightness, the other is suffering leading to darkness. All beings in existence strive towards pleasure and brightness, desperately trying to avoid suffering and darkness. We are all part of this. It is the nature of humans, of beings, of minds still dwelling in ignorance, dependent on mental formations. Because when we rely on these mental formations or elemental mind states, they always manifest in two ways: forming towards pleasure and brightness, or forming towards suffering and darkness. The mind, having only these two paths, naturally gravitates towards brightness. When depending on these mental elements, they will always create these two sides: fulfillment and unfulfillment, what we might call rightness and suffering, satisfaction and dissatisfaction, darkness and brightness. The Buddha discovered the path beyond pleasure or happy bliss, for even these cannot lead to liberation. The more pleasurable things become, the greater the suffering and darkness that follows. He saw that darkness and brightness are one and the same, pleasure and suffering are the same, merit and sin are one, good and evil are unified, female and male, darkness and brightness, black and white, truth and falsehood, right and wrong, body and mind, form and formlessness. All these are conditioned pairs. He realized that all these dualities are one and the same. They are all just manifestations of mind. They are all manifestations of mind. Even these words I speak are manifestations of mind. Whether spoken forcefully or with gentle melody, they are merely ripples of consciousness stirring within. These sounds can be formed into wholesome or unwholesome paths. They can be shaped into emotions of pleasure or suffering. All this is possible through mental formations. The mind can create and condition endless stories and experiences through these citta sankhara, these mental formations that shape our reality. Mental formations, the elemental mind. The Buddha saw that everything is truly one and the same. All is suffering, all is conditioned phenomena, all is simply manifestation of mind. This is why the Buddha taught that suffering should be fully understood. Simply know it. There's no need to do anything, no need to desire the end of suffering. Suffering is natural, a conditioned state that exists in its own way. We cannot do anything to it, cannot interfere with its nature. The Buddha pointed out that the truth of suffering and all conditioned phenomena are non-self, anatta. They exist as they are. All natural phenomena exist as they are not us. We have nothing we can truly call I or mine, and we cannot control them. We cannot control any conditioned phenomena. The Buddha taught only to know. He said suffering should be understood through mindful observation. Just know it. Whether these conditioned states form into satisfaction or dissatisfaction, they are all suffering. Even when conditioned states lead to happiness, it is still suffering. When they lead to wholesomeness, it is still suffering. It is conditioning. Understand this, all of it is conditioning. Even the sound I am speaking now, this is conditioning. It is suffering. It is merely a condition of the mind, fluctuating and molding itself into sound for us to perceive. The condition of perceiving my voice at this moment is the mind fluctuating and perceiving this sound. That too is a condition. That too is a form of conditioning. This condition exists as it does in nature. It belongs to itself and no one. Observe carefully. The nature of our mind perceives this sound through its own nature. We do not need to intentionally perceive it. It perceives on its own. Observe carefully, and you will see that nothing is us. A simple question: for that which perceives and hears this sound, it perceives on its own. Whether we intentionally perceive it or not, it continues to perceive on its own. This sound is merely a fluctuating condition. There is nothing that is us here. So where are we? Let the mind answer. let the mind fluctuate into a state of Buddha Bhava. When our mind fluctuates into a state of Buddha Bhava, it will feel open, clear and light. Tears will fall as we come to know the Dhamma Tattva, which is empty, clear and pure. It is the origin of all conditioned phenomena. We will reach the original purity of our mind. Our mind is a clear and pure emptiness. It has always been pure like this since time immemorial. Let us say that within the Dhamma Tattva there is no time. Understand this point clearly. Imagine erasing your entire body, erasing this world entirely, erasing the universe, erasing every speck of dust, every star, the sun and black holes, erase them all. What remains is emptiness. This emptiness is extraordinarily pure and clear. Erase both darkness and light as well, leaving only this clarity, immensely clear emptiness, encompassing the infinite universe. That is our mind, one in all and all in one. There is a certain nature that fluctuates and creates. This is what gives rise to us. It is called the Big Bang, which caused the dispersion of dust particles, stars, and celestial bodies, all breaking apart and spinning due to. It is said that there is energy inducing one another, like magnetic poles found in all types of material elements. These poles of energy circulate around dust particles and material substances. They attract and influence one another until they combine, break apart, and generate energy, heat, stars, and the sun. They form the solar system, galaxies, and the infinite universe, creating both darkness and light. All of this arose later, but the original element is that pure and clear emptiness. That is the original element. Our mind is like that. Our mind has no shape. It is pure, clear emptiness. It is called Sunyata Dhatu, the element of emptiness, Nibbana Dhatu, the element of nirvana, Dhamma Dhatu, the element of truth, the original mind or the primordial element. It is the elemental zero, always in a state of void. This nature has no time, no coming, no going. When we speak of no coming and going, this pure emptiness that pervades the infinite universe has no time. Understand? Wherever it is there. There is no time. We can be anywhere, for it's all the same place. It can go anywhere without time, without anything at all. At that point, wherever you are becomes the center. Everything is at the center. This is knowledge we've never heard before. The Buddha called this knowledge achinteya, that which should not be thought about. It means it's not conceptual, cannot be formed by thought. Don't think, just know. Our mind is pure empty consciousness. When anything contacts it, it performs the function of knowing. You could call it the knowing element. But this knowing element is just its characteristic. Our mind as the knowing element knows everything, but it knows without speaking. This is achinteya. We can only reach this truth when we transcend thinking. We must incline our minds to listen to this Dharma. As I often say, we must not listen to memorize, must not listen and think, but simply incline our minds to follow. Just follow this stream of sound. This is a transmission from mind to mind. This mind reaches out to your minds, and your minds ripple in response, observing internally. Follow the sound, hold on to it, and keep going. Your mind will gradually understand and deeply connect with its true nature. Then the state of Buddhahood will arise. At that point, attaining the truth becomes effortless. This is called being one who inclines their mind to follow. Most people do not understand Dhamma because they are caught up in mental fabrications. They constantly rely on thoughts, mental images, emotions, sensory perceptions, and these fabricated conditions. The mind becomes trapped in these fabrications. However, Dhamma is not about fabrication. It is about reversing the current, awakening. The Buddha already said, suffering is to be comprehended. He only instructed us to know. As we listen to the Dhamma and incline our minds to follow, our only duty is to keep knowing continuously just that. When we incline our minds and follow the knowing, we will gradually begin to understand a certain nature, a nature that cannot be spoken about. It is a nature of pure knowing, and it dissolves in this present moment. We see the knowing and the known appearing now, dissolving now. We will be moved to tears by this profound understanding. Observe carefully. Right now our minds are perceiving this sound. Hold on to my voice carefully. Watch closely and you'll see that the mind's nature knows this sound through its own nature. Just observe this state of knowing. It knows by itself, it knows something. Observe carefully within the mind. Let's establish awareness at the center of mind. We establish awareness at the center of mind. Watch carefully how there is this state of knowing by itself, and something appears to be known. What appears to be known has no language to describe what it is. Observe carefully, and you will see that my voice is just something, and what is being recognized is also just something. Both the knowing and the object of knowing are merely something. They are merely phenomena. Where is this self? Where is this I? Let the mind answer. Let the mind recognize on its own. Let it accept on its own. Do not think about it. Do not impose any knowledge over this pure nature. Dharma is about liberation, not about conventions. You must see for yourselves that everything, whether it is something you see with your eyes or the sound of the voice in your mind, is the same. Understand this. Both form and formless elements are the same. Physical forms or mental elements are the same. What you see with your eyes and what you hear as sound, this sound, images, smells, tastes, touches, all these sensations, they are the same. They are merely objects of knowing. The voice you hear now, the mental images you think of, like a giraffe, emotions of happiness, sorrow, irritation, joy, indifference, calm. All of these are merely objects of knowing. Can you see this? Who can see that both physical and mental elements, both form and name, are merely objects of knowings? Whoever sees this has found the middle way. It's all converging inward now. Observe carefully this inner knowing. It knows by itself. What appears to be known exists by itself. It's merely something. Both the knowing and the known are merely characteristics. You could say it's all just activity. There is only something, appearing together, dissolving together. Let's put it simply, it's just something, that's all. Look carefully, there is no self in any of this. This knowing is merely something. Observe carefully, there is no we here. Even this sound is merely something that makes contact. No we exists here either. It's just some natural phenomenon existing like this in the present moment. And it's a present moment that's constantly moving, a present that can't be pinned down. Here there is no past, here there is no future. Here is just something, we call it something, yet it isn't anything. This nature exists as it is. Nothing is us. What are we searching for? What are we all searching for? We use mental elements to seek physical elements. Yet neither mental nor physical elements have ever truly existed as self. They are merely something appearing now and dissolving now. When we look and contemplate carefully, it's not even something that appears and dissolves. It isn't anything. There is only nature existing as it is. It cannot be said what it is. This is liberation beyond conventions. This is the inconceivable Dharma, Dharma that cannot be thought about. This is the essence of Dharma. This is liberation through simply knowing the state of suffering. There's knowing suffering. The states mentioned above are all forms of suffering. Whether it is form or mind, it is all suffering. It is all conditioned states. If it is a wholesome mind or an unwholesome mind, it is still just a mental element. Whether it is merit or sin, wholesome or unwholesome, it is merely a mental element. It is just a condition. It is simply something. All these things are of equal value, identical in essence. All phenomena at their ultimate core are the same. Everything in existence is fundamentally one. This is what's called the middle way, the path between extremes. The Buddha taught us to simply know all phenomena as they are. This knowing of phenomena is the essence of mindfulness practice, satipatthana. seeing Dharma within Dharma, seeing the non-self nature in all phenomena, seeing that whatever appears exists just as it is. It isn't anything in particular, not self, not anyone, not anything at all. This cannot be explained in any language, because even this spoken sound is not a voice, and no one is speaking, no one is hearing. There is only something that exists as it does, empty, clear, and pure. There is no self, no one, nothing, and no being. It is clean, pure, radiant, shining brightly without boundaries. It is the brilliance of true knowledge and wisdom, no longer clouded like before. An analogy, our mind is a clear, pure, empty element. When darkness enters this clear emptiness, the original mind merges with the darkness, mistaking itself for the darkness because it is still learning. When light enters, it loses the darkness and suffers from that loss. Then as light arises, it begins to cling to the light, merging with it. The brightness clings to the idea that it is brightness, feeling joy and satisfaction in being the brightness. When darkness enters, brightness gradually fades. They lose that brightness once again. They learn that they had gained brightness, and they learn that they lost brightness. They experience both pleasure and suffering. These are conditioned states of attachment. When darkness enters anew, they stop being deluded by this new darkness, stop merging with the darkness and identifying themselves as darkness once more. When brightness enters, they lose darkness again. Thus we cycle in the wheel of wanting and unfulfillment, cycle in the wheel of pleasure and pain arising from satisfaction and dissatisfaction. We flow with every kind of mental formation that appears to be known. This is the mind of ignorance, learning to cling to everything just as we cling to being human. We've already clung to being human. We believe we are male or female, but mind has never been human, mind has never been male or female. Our mind is pure empty consciousness, the primordial element. As stated in the Pali, mind is the forerunner of all things. Mind is supreme. All things are mind-made. Before all things existed, this Dharma element was already there. It is supreme, it is primary. Everything is accomplished through this Dharma element. Whatever we desire, wealth, status, praise, pleasure, can be attained because our minds are set on obtaining them. Whatever we want to become, whatever we want to be born as. We will be born as everything when our minds are set on learning. This is ignorance. With the intention to learn, it manifests mental elements and physical forms, then becomes attached to what it desires. Some worship deities wishing to be reborn as celestial beings. Some worship animals wishing to be reborn as animals. People bow to all manner of things, even to termite mounds. We will be born as everything we desire. Whatever we are attached to, we will become that. The Buddha saw beings wandering in samsara because of avidya ignorance. He was filled with compassion for beings lost in delusion. We've become deluded and forgotten our own nature, getting lost in external things, forgetting where we truly came from. We've forgotten that we are mind, our Dharma element, our pure empty consciousness, are the Nirvana element. The Buddha has returned to the Nirvana element. All the Arahats have returned to the Nirvana element. They will never return to be born in this conventional world again. Do you understand what convention means? They will not be born as beings again, nor as humans. They won't take birth as divine beings, nor as beings of darkness and lower realms. What kind of beings do we still wish to be born as? Among the subtle-bodied beings, what do we want to be? What kind of being shall we become? Do you really want to be born as beings of the happy realms, only to struggle and seek things, to feel anger and hatred, to harm one another? When will it stop? When will we awaken? To awaken to suffering. All of this is suffering. Even these words being spoken now are suffering. What is being perceived now is suffering. This is suffering. Suffering is conditioned phenomena that cannot remain in its original state. The Buddha taught us to know suffering, to know all phenomena. This is suffering, the cycle of suffering, the cycle of rebirth, the cycle of mental formations. The sound being spoken now, this is the conditioned cycle. If we cling to this sound, believing it has a self, it arises in the meaning of this sound. If we cling to the mental image being imagined, it arises in that mental image. If we cling to emotions, whether they are emotions of happiness and satisfaction, or emotions of unhappiness and dissatisfaction, or neutral emotions, or calm emotions, they arise in the cycle of emotions. It will always be this way, like picking up a coin. It will always have both heads and tails. If we are born into this cycle of suffering, we will encounter both darkness and light, alternating back and forth, happiness and suffering, good and evil, right and wrong, truth and falsehood, anger, hatred, love, all of it exists only in this realm. We become infatuated with one another and then grow to hate one another. When we love intensely. When we hate intensely. Now, does this resonate with anyone's life? Why be born as beings trapped in this endless cycle of convention? Do you like being such beings? Do you enjoy this? This is why the Buddha called beings those who are deluded in the world. While he saw this world as empty, he will not be born again, because in the nirvana element there is ultimate happiness, beyond pleasure, beyond suffering, beyond all formations. It is the deathless element, the eternal element of utmost purity. Speaking of this, he was liberated, his heart was fulfilled, he had no doubts. He could speak with complete conviction, this will be the final birth. We will not be born again. No matter what happens, there is no more birth. Let it be seen in every moment of mind, from waking until sleep. The mind sees in every moment that it does not arise. Whatever formations arise, the five aggregates function as before. This is how it was before awakening to the Dharma, and after awakening it's exactly the same. But now there is wisdom. The mind has wisdom. It knows, it understands, it sees clearly everything. There are no doubts. Finally, we will not be born again. No matter what, we won't be born again. See it clearly in every moment of consciousness, from waking until sleeping. It sees in every moment that the mind does not arise. Whatever way it fabricates, the five aggregates work as usual. This is it. Before realization, it is as it is. After realization, it is the same, but with wisdom. The mind has wisdom. It knows, it understands, it fully sees without doubt. Even if the Buddha were standing before you, there would be no need to ask, because there is nothing to ask about. What is being spoken now is not even being spoken by anyone. This is not a voice, it is merely a ripple from mind to mind. Dharma is about transmission from mind to mind. It is spoken from the heart so that we may know. These five aggregates, this voice speaking now, they arise from mental formations, citta sankhara. These rippling, fabricating movements, they are what create the five aggregates. There aren't five aggregates, six aggregates, or even eight aggregates. There's not a single aggregate. There's just a ladle, and even the ladle doesn't exist because it has been burned and shattered. Yet we cling to the idea that we are humans. What makes us human? When we are born as animals, we believe we are animals again. What makes us animals? When we are born into lower realms, we believe we are in the lower realms. What makes it a lower realm? In conclusion, what are we really? Oh, beings of the world. Anyone who cannot scold themselves still thinks they are clever and continues to cycle in existence. Let me tell you, anyone who dares to scold themselves and teach their own heart does so because they see, oh my, how could I be so foolish? Oh, beings of the world, scold yourselves. I myself scolded myself heavily. Before this, I declared war against my own mind. From now on, until I realize the Dharma, from waking until sleeping, I will observe every thought at all times. Okay, so this is it. This is suffering. This is the cycle. Oh, I despise it so much that I won't let myself be caught off guard by it, won't let it drag me away. I was ignorant before, so ignorant. This hell being was so ignorant, understand? It was ignorant then, doing foolish things like this. But it was good then, it saw everything constantly. Whenever a thought arose, it saw in every moment from waking until sleep. It saw everything and didn't care. Whatever thoughts came, let them be, just let them be. Even the words "let it be" were seen too, let me tell you. There was only knowing, that's all. Whatever thought arose, even the tiniest bit, it knew immediately and then dropped it right away. Let me say there was letting go. Before it was foolish. It clung. But when it could see everything, it was indifferent. It didn't depend on anything. It didn't lean on anything. It just let the spinning happen day and night without sleeping until it finally snapped apart. It shattered. It exploded with a brilliant light everywhere. Nothing was left, nothing, not even the liver or kidneys. At that moment it was earth-shaking. It turned out, as I came to understand, oh, there has never been a me from the beginning. Oh mind, what have you been clinging to? Scold yourself. There's nothing that is us. It's something utterly supreme. Every day I eat rice with vegetables. I've stopped eating all types of meat, sweets, eggs. No animal products at all. I eat only vegetables, curried vegetables, stir-fried vegetables, blanched vegetables, boiled vegetables, rice with vegetables, once a day. I've been doing this for many years now. These days I don't feel attached to anything anymore. Do I still like the foods I used to eat before? Yes, I absolutely love them. But I've stopped completely because I've eaten it all before, so what's the point of eating it anymore? The more I ate, the weaker my body became. Before, my body was in terrible condition as if it was nearing the end of its life. I knew I wouldn't last long living this way, eating like other humans do. I loved it so much, and that's exactly why I stopped. Let's see what happens if I stop completely. Just rice and vegetables, just this much, with stir-fried and curried vegetables. Only vegetables. It turned out this change in eating habits came about because the mind declared a realization. As soon as it declared this, life changed instantly from that very second. So I tried this approach. There's nothing else to do each day except Dharma practice, nothing else to do. So I tried it out. I changed my way of life. I'm telling you this to show you there's life in this, and that's how I turned to eating this way. It turned out that in just 2 or 3 months, my body changed completely. All previous illnesses started to heal. They healed so naturally that I forgot they had even healed. I can't remember when they disappeared. I forgot I ever had these conditions. They just vanished. And after that, years passed and my body changed dramatically. Chronic conditions that I had all my life, conditions that were part of me, like allergies, they never appeared again. The recurring fevers I used to have every year, multiple times a year, don't happen anymore. The chronic coughing that led to breathlessness, liver pain, and persistent coughing for years has completely disappeared. It's never come back. Those lifelong symptoms that kept worsening, made me aware that my time might be short. Everything has changed. So I laugh and think, wow, Dharma is so incredible. It's transformed everything about me. It's changed everything. It's changed on its own. It happens by itself. It doesn't come from wanting to be like what the world is. Never wanting to be like what the world is. These days I want to be like the Buddha. I want to liberate all beings and not leave a single one behind. I made this declaration to my father after realizing it in my heart. That I will take on his role. I will carry out the work of all the Buddhas. I will liberate all beings, leaving none to continue wandering in this samsara. Samsara must collapse entirely. I will dismantle it completely. I will achieve the beauty that my father achieved. I can do it. There's no such thing as I can't. If others won't do it, I will. This vow was made to my father from that day onward, not just in this era, but I made this vow in another era too. I've already made it. I've made this vow to Buddha. Therefore there are no doubts anymore and nothing to be. Actually, no one was speaking then. Humans believe this is sound, this is speech, these are beings. Remember this world. We were never born into this world. We have never been anything. We are consciousness, empty, pure. But we just sleep and dream, believing we are this and that. Born as a dog, believing we're a dog. Born as a human, believing we're human. So which is it? Are we human or dog? Then born as a deva, believing we're a deva. Born as a hungry ghost, hell being, or asura, believing we're those things. In the end, who is actually what? It's all dreams. Do you see all that has been said? This is the abstract, relying on mental formations. Using these sounds, it creates every story. We've been speaking for so long and it all seems so real, doesn't it? But where is it? Where is everything that's been said? It's merely something that isn't anything, existing as it is. This is how all natural phenomena exist. What are they? They are not anything. There are no beings, persons, or selves born into the world, because there has never been a world. It has never existed, never been, never not been. It has nothing to do with anything. There is only pure consciousness. Our mind has only this Dharma element, absolutely pure. You could call it the Nirvana element. It's always been the Nirvana element, this Dharma element. It's just not knowing, that's all. So know it. Not knowing, then know. Just know. Listen to my Dharma recordings extensively. Everyone, regardless of age, gender, or disability, can achieve enlightenment because we all have mind. Listen frequently to my Dharma until the sound of Dharma resonates within your mind. Then your mind will be constantly awake and aware and will realize truth by itself. It will gradually release, becoming lighter and lighter. The more you listen, the lighter it becomes, the more thoroughly absorbed you become. Listen to my Dharma teachings. You will become completely absorbed. The benefits are immense, let me tell you. If I were to speak of all the benefits, would it seem too much? Let's just say we will not be born again. That is enough. Just listen, there's so much more to it. When the time comes for us to leave this world, it'll be like falling asleep after a good meal, feeling at ease with perfect weather. The mind will feel bright and serene, full of joy. Eating with your children and grandchildren, feeling content, lying down, gazing at nature, and then gently drifting into sleep, departing from this world without any suffering. I'm telling you, it'll happen like that. And you won't be born again. It will be so peaceful. You don't have to believe me. Just listen and observe. Let the elderly listen to this and watch when they leave this world. There's something about it that we can sense, a kind of, wow, that was wonderful. Sometimes people fall asleep and never wake up. When we check on them later, they've already passed on. How wonderful. They simply drifted off peacefully. Many wish for such a gentle departure. As I share these Dharma teachings, I speak of non-self, guiding us to see the true nature within nature itself. This is the essence of mindfulness practice. Those who remain awakened within, seeing truth within truth, this is what happens when you truly listen and understand. All the Buddhas taught this way. When they shared wisdom, those who understood achieved enlightenment immediately. If you don't understand at first, listen again. Come listen often, and gradually things become clear, light, and open. Liberation happens naturally. Our minds lack the foundation of wisdom knowledge, but when we receive these teachings of wisdom, the mind gradually releases, becoming lighter and lighter until it breaks free. Observe carefully when listening to these Dharma teachings. Tears may flow and you may feel deeply moved. The more you listen, the more you sense you're just on the verge of understanding. yet full comprehension remains just out of reach. It's like being on the brink of breakthrough, but not quite there. You listen and tears flow, deeply touched, but still not fully released. Some experience sudden awakening, a complete breakthrough. They break free from human constraints, detaching from sound, seeing that sound is not self. They break free from mental constructs, from emotions, from the current state of knowing. When you realize that none of this is truly self, tears may flow and weeping comes. Sometimes the mind and body experience a complete breakthrough. The mind bursts open and all worldly elements dissolve. You might hear sadhu echoing all around. There are so many varieties of experience for those who listen to these teachings. Just go ahead and verify for yourself. Listen on. It won't cost even a single dollar. Now the time has come to conclude. May all of us who have made the resolute determination not to be reborn, who hold enlightenment as our goal, who take non-self as our refuge, may we all realize the truth and swiftly attain enlightenment for everyone, everywhere. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May all Buddhas bear witness that from this moment onward, I will diligently listen to this Dharma. I will awaken within, observe thoughts, ideas, emotions and sensations, recognizing them as natural phenomena, not self, not mine. I will not cling to any state. I will not be reborn again. This life will be my last. Once I realize the Dhamma, I will teach and guide my children, grandchildren, and acquaintances to awaken within, free from clinging to thoughts, ideas, and emotions, until the very end of their breath. As an offering to the Buddha, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.